Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great will become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, and in today's episode, we have one of the legendary women here in the industry, Jenna Black. She's a business mentor. She's also a money healer. She has her own podcast, Woman of Wealth, that actually is pretty great. I listened to the one that you released, I think this week, and it was pretty powerful. One of
Thank
the
you.
just admit, Jenna, before you introduce yourself, when I came across to your life work, I got a little bit back then, a little bit like trigger, and I mentioned this word because it was like, oh, so luxurious and elite. And I got curious about that. It was not about you, it was about me. And back then, I was not fully in harmony with those words and with the real meaning. But more and more, I was getting to know you through your posts. And this is one of the things that I would love also to share with the audience. So many times we don't like, but we see. We don't
Mm.
like, we just binge. And and after, like I said, seeing your life work, I was just really impressed because you radiate this beautiful, beautiful balance energy that actually represent what luxury is, what elite is. And now I can happily say that I feel really comfortable, like when I see your live work, when I listen to your podcast, and that was not because you changed something, it's because I did evolve. That
Mm.
I just wanted to mention that because those are the things that we don't mention as a leaders, right? We see like, well,
Yes.
but I wanted to bring it raw. With that being said, if you can introduce yourself, Jenna, let us know who you are
Yeah.
and where you are right now.
And what brought me to where I am? So go straight in. Okay, let's do it. So, well, thank you for having me. And I really love that experience of being triggered by someone and then it opens up something that you own in yourself. I think that's really powerful. So thank you for sharing that. So I'm Jenna Black and I work as a soul activator primarily. So I work with women to really come into their fullest power around their soul gifts and their soul purpose and what they are here to bring as their legacy. And then we use the vehicle of business to create that. So I am a business mentor and I have over a decade now of experience working in business and marketing and branding and all the pieces that come together to run a successful online business. And so a lot of the work that I do with my clients is really supporting the woman behind the business to be in her fullest power, to really shift her energetic field, to create offerings that are of deep service to the clients that she is here to serve. And then we also look at, all the elements of business and growth and sales and client attraction. So that's my realm that I play in. And in terms of my story getting here, so I guess I'll go straight back to childhood because I think it's really as you are bringing into this podcast, the background of it's not an overnight thing. And I think we can see the beautiful Instagram feeds or the branding and think, oh, that just happens. And it
Yeah.
definitely did not for me at all. It has been such an evolution. I grew up in a semi-rural part of Australia, just out of Sydney. And I grew up with two parents that worked really hard. High school teacher. My mum was a high school teacher. My dad worked on a golf course as a superintendent. So very physical, long hours. And I always had that mentality of like work hard for money and just get a standard job, And so that was what I was taught. I grew up in a house where it was very emotionally unstable. So, as a very highly sensitive child and very intuitive, I, from a young age, had to shut down that intuition because it wasn't safe to express
Yes.
anything. It wasn't safe to cry. It wasn't safe to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, or to really live in that spiritual realm, which so often I was just day to day in that spiritual realm. And I found it really hard to anchor it into my family environment from a young age. Um, my father was an alcoholic, so I grew up with a lot of turmoil, a lot of instability day to day. And I think when I reflect back, that was such a season where from ages even like 2 to 3, I remember shutting down who I am, and not speaking up and not feeling safe. And so a lot of my journey, I think, into where I am today has been that unraveling of knowing that I create safety within myself and
Mm.
knowing that I hold the power to create what I desire. And of course, I went through a few decades of figuring that out before
It's a
I
journey.
got to
It
this
is.
point.
It is.
Yeah. And again, it's not the overnight thing. It's really a period of deep learning. I went through a really challenging period when I was a teenager. I attempted to take my own life when I was 16.
Mm.
So I've gone through a lot of intense trauma, and I always see that as such these powerful moments for me of healing and reclamation and really coming back home to who I was.
Mm.
And I think the other thread that I noticed for me was I was always following what someone else told me to do, because that was the safe option. It was like, listen to mom and dad, listen to the high school teacher, listen to my grandparents, and just follow the path of what is safe, just get the standard job, stay safe. And as I found myself moving out of high school, going to university, I actually landed into the fashion industry. I have a background in writing and marketing, and so I had a whole decade in the fashion industry, in various jobs, but primarily in marketing, branding, social media marketing, e-commerce. Um, but I came to I think I was about age 27, and I started getting that feeling of my soul
Wanting.
really wanting to break out. Yeah. And that was when I went on my own personal journey of really deep healing.
Mm.
And it was also in that healing that I kept getting the intuitive download, like, you have to take your own path. And even if this job to the outside and to my family is amazing, and I'm traveling and going to events and, pretty
Amazing.
good pay for my age, but it was like, I just felt, is this it? And
Mm.
there has to be something else. And I think that question, I've been reflecting on this recently, actually. I think that question, is this it, has always guided me. It's always that question of like, surely there is something more.
Yeah.
And what else can there be? Because I don't have to settle for this.
Mm.
And I really believe I'm the first woman in my family, if not the first person in my family, to go
Wow.
off the track and to do something differently that is completely soul guided.
Mm.
Um, and so I quit my job. Everyone thought I was crazy. I was freelance writing on the side, and I also was studying as a health coach. So I kind of like quit my job about a few months into doing both of that,
Yeah.
jumped into health coaching initially. That was my first main business, as I was freelance writing. So I started my business very like, you know, testing bits and pieces and doing a whole lot of things, which so many of us do. And I think that's
Yeah, of
great.
course, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and again, my soul was just like, there's something more, like, keep looking at this, keep going. This doesn't feel fully on fire, not that
Mm.
complete alignment. And so over the first 2 to 3 years of my business, I was navigating, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What do I want to be known for?
Yeah.
What's the work that really brings me alive? And as I was doing that, I really went on a deep period of healing my money story.
Mm.
And because
So
I think it's such a natural thing that we look at when we run our business, it's suddenly
at
money
what
is,
point we're up to, yeah, that's so true.
yeah, and so we go on our personal journey of looking at that. And for me, that showed me so much. It wasn't just about my money story, but my self-worth, my power.
Mm.
And in that period, I healed so much, but I also found that I was so drawn to teaching on that. I was so drawn to letting my friends, my peers know about this. And so I think this was about 2018, and I just started teaching on it. And it took off from there. It really was that thing where I realized this is my sole purpose, to help women with their power, to help women with their wealth, but really use the vehicle of business to do that. Um, and of course, I've gone through many shifts and deepening along the way, but that was really that pivotal moment for me. So that led to the work that I do today.
That is so, so powerful. And so many pieces that you mentioning growing up. Like I will say it in a small town, uh, also have not having, like many of us, including myself, this money mindset or being encouraged or like cheery up, right? One of the things that I would love for you, if you can expand a little bit more, you mentioned that you went through situations in your when you were a teenager, and but moving forward, when you decide to I'm going to start my journey understanding myself, what was that first encounter? You saw something on, I don't know, like on YouTube, a friend, what was that first thing?
Yeah. Well, I always had an interest, even when I was a child, with oracle cards and, communicating with spirit and
Oh
all
my
of that. So
God,
that
that
was,
so that is mind blowing. But I do believe it. I mean, wow.
yeah. So when I was a teenager, I would do that really secretly in my bedroom, by the way. So I would have this whole little altar set up and crystals, and I would do rituals with the moon. And this is when I was about like 13, 14.
Oh, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I remember going to the local kind of hippie shop and spiritual shop and taking all my pocket money and buying things there, and buying a crystal and getting a oracle deck. So I always had that from a really young age, and I actually think that it was that part of me that's always just been there, is my intuition, just leading me to, go and do this and go and do that. And this is what you're drawn to. So that was there. And then when I went through my really difficult period when I was a teenager, that took me off track for a good probably like 6 years, until I was like mid-20s. And it
Mm,
was in my mid-20s that I had been, just so, I was so lost at that time. I
mm,
was partying too much. I was working in this toxic workplace. I was not putting my health
sure.
first. And what actually happened was I started to have so much anxiety, and I started to have all these health problems. And my first thing that led me to this work that I always am so grateful for, this woman, was a naturopath that I went to.
Okay.
Um, Kath the naturopath. That was,
Okay.
Catherine was her name. I would never forget her, because it was such a pivotal moment of being led to that and going into her space and just having this complete opening of, wow, I haven't been looking after myself.
Mm,
I've been putting everyone else first. I've been ignoring my soul and my intuition, and my body is showing it. So my body's having all these reactions now. So when I worked with her for about 6 months, that really changed so much. That was when I found myself at work and I was Googling quietly on the side, which I wasn't meant to be doing. And I found health coaching. It just came up in the Google ads out of nowhere. And I didn't even know what coaching was. I really didn't know. I was so, completely out of this world of where I am now. I had no idea. But something in my soul, it was like a light bulb moment. It really was that light bulb moment. And I was like, I have to sign up for that. And I remember paying within 24 hours with all of my savings for this. I think it was $5,000 or something. Yeah, I think it was $5,000.
oh
And
my
I
God.
remember just going, I trust this. My soul is saying yes, let's do it. And then a year later, I'd quit my job. So,
So magical. I mean,
yeah.
having that level of confidence, like, and to in following your intuition, because so many times we have those we ask for change or we looking for several things, and when it comes, we stop or we like hesitate to even invest $5,000, the first investment, right? It was like,
Yeah,
I bet it was a stretch for you, like,
it was.
and then
Mm.
but like you mentioned, those are the moments that we when we look back, we see the before and after. It changed the entire direction of our life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think one thing that I look at is my intuition. I always thought my intuition was me just being spontaneous in life because, my parents would say, well, why are you doing that? Why are you traveling over to, I remember saying, like, I'm going to Japan next week with my friend and we just decided and, we just do kind of fun. And this was like my mid-20s, so I was just doing fun stuff all the time and exploring so much. But I realize now that that was really my intuition, always guiding me. And I just thought it was spontaneous because that's what my family thought. So there was a lot of unlearning to do around that. But yeah, it's always been there.
I love that, and I can feel that in your energy. It's just like, and even just being sitting here, and we are miles apart. It feels so light, so playful, between playful, fun, but also so secure and centered and grounded. And it's because all the practice pretty much your whole life by
Mm,
being just moving when your intuition was leading you. And we can, like you said, we can put sometimes labels, but it's just that following who we are.
yeah.
And one of the things that I would love to touch a little bit more is when once you encounter your first business. And as I think pretty much, if we are here online, many of us, we start with one thing, and of course we're evolving, and sometimes we've been shifting the fields. When you arrived to what was the moment when you start saw that pattern about money? Because sometimes we arrive and we start attracting clients, but for me that occurred back in 2022, early 2000, late 2021, early 2022, when I was seeing this pattern on me. And it was just like, wow, I reached certain point, and from there it was like something holding me back. And it was not
Mhm.
about the clients, it was not about the offers, it was something inside me. And you said, like you said, I started working on the way that I was seeing money and
Yeah.
healing. But what was that for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was around, 2017 when I'd been in business for a couple of years, but those first couple of years were very challenging.
Mhm.
And I always thought, oh, there's something wrong with what I'm doing, what I'm selling. I kept thinking it's a strategy. I've got to get my website set up. I've got to I was always looking at like, what's the thing happening that something must be broken. And then I realized, actually, I haven't even looked at my mindset. I haven't looked at my energy at all. And I think I just had this moment of, oh, what if it's not outside of me? What if I have to look within? And that's really scary, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, I've got some work to do. And I remember these patterns coming through which is really from my childhood of work harder,
Mhm.
work hard, put in the hours, that's when you'll make money. But then I also had this pattern of then you'll just have enough, because that was what I witnessed with my family. It was work really hard, but we'll just be good. It won't be an overflow. It'll just be enough. And so that was one of the core patterns that I had to work through. Um, and I noticed, so much resistance to that. And I really had to go through these daily practices. And what I found was the thing that really shifted it was not just the healing work around my conditioning and a lot of forgiveness work, like a lot of forgiveness work with my parents and with myself, because I think we forget to forgive ourselves as well for past situations, past choices. It was a lot of that, but it was also really rebuilding my self-worth because
Mm.
I realized that for years I had really a facade up or a wall up about who I really was. And would, I was this person that would go into any situation and I would adapt to make others comfortable, so a social setting, I'd be this person. In that group of friends, I'd be that person. In the workplace, I'd be that person. And it was very exhausting. It's really exhausting to not be ourselves. Yeah. And so a lot of my money healing was actually healing my relationship with myself
Mm.
and with standing in my truth and in my authenticity and in my worth. And then I started to see my business take different form. Then I started to get different ideas. and my offerings came through differently. My message came through differently. And it was like this opening because I was really grounded in who I was.
Yeah.
So that was the shift for me. It was really interesting because I teach on money all the time and I teach on wealth with so many of my clients, but it always comes back to not always about the relationship with the money, but our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
And then it reflects in money. So
That is so true. You mentioned two specific things that it just those are just like really, really deep. Sometimes we don't forgive ourselves. We still having that maybe we have a money situation back then, and for that choice we went to through a lot of debt or you name it, and we still one part of us still don't trust in us by having money because we make mistakes, or like you said, how who I am to have money or to let it in if back then it was really, really hard. It's like a contradicting my parents, which adore in how who I am to break this
yeah.
unconsciously rule. And
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to self-worth, I think for me was really, and I'm still doing, like you said, the daily practices, but that is one of the wow, the keys. Like it's sometimes like you mentioned, it's not the strategy that you get to use. It's not so many things that we think that are the root cause of the business or the absence of no clients or you name it. It's all the relationship that we have with ourselves. We can
Yes.
have the best strategy, amazing, even clients. At one point, I was having clients, like really amazing clients, but one part of me was is still kind of rejecting, like
Mm,
not fully owning, like you said, my value, what I get to offer.
yeah.
And when that is like it's like this inner battle that no one sees, but it's felt that it's that
Yeah.
resistance that it's like a push and pull. You want to accelerate, but it's the brake. And
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
that is something that it equal appears, and let me know if you agree, at any level, at
Yes,
any level, like and
absolutely.
you think like, oh, I thought you, I was feeling that layer before, but it's a constant work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important to remember that to not judge ourselves when things come up again. You
Yeah,
know, when it's like, oh, I worked through that pattern, or I thought I got over that limiting belief,
that's right.
right? Because I would do that. I would go, oh, here I am again. Like I mustn't have done it correctly. But what I've found is that with each level or with each expansion that we go through, it
Yeah,
can come through in a different way. And that actually that's powerful and beautiful. It's like another thread that we get to look at.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, just wanted to say that.
One of the things that I also want to highlight here, and you mentioned this in your podcast about evolution. Sometimes we know that we're ready to serve in a different way, or we want to go for that idea that really lights us up, but we've been doing something that works, something that brings clients, or we have a name under that, whatever, and we feel like I'm not sure if this is going to work out. And
Mm.
I would love for you if you can mention, how do you move through that? Because you've been evolving those in the last few years a lot. Like you, how you give yourself permission to say, you know what, I'm going for the thing. And by now I know that you follow your intuition, but still when we follow our intuition, there's another part or self-image. How you allow yourself just to go, and the
Mm.
people that are going to resonate with that, they're going to be you want to draw them, and the people that are no longer resonating with that, that's okay. I mean, how do you move through that without or how you walk with fear? Because it's not
Yeah,
like a fear fear, I
yeah,
think it comes in with different mask, that I
yeah,
don't want to lose this, what if it does not happen, or what if happens. So if you can extend a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that over the years when I've evolved and gone through different levels of my work, it's been challenging at times and it has brought up a lot. And I also have witnessed that it gets easier in a way. Um, I think even right now I'm moving through that. And that was what my recent podcast was about, that right now I'm moving into a new level of my work. And it's almost like, oh, here we go again. Okay, like let's bring this through. And I think the biggest thing for me is noticing the fear. I have a very good relationship with knowing when it's my fear and my ego,
Mm,
knowing when it's my soul speaking. And that's just been years of mastery, by the way, and really getting to know these energies.
yeah.
But my practice now is that I know when it's soul. So I'll be so deeply grounded in that truth that I know I'm safe to say yes to that. And I know that if I desire something, and I say desire not from an egoic space, but a really soul-led space of this feels alive for me. This feels like I don't even know where it's come from, but I'm meant to do this. I'm
Mm,
led to this. I'm drawn to this. When I follow that, I look back on my journey and I've always been safe in that. And
mm.
so I think for me, it builds up with evidence.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah.
Um, and excuse me, and past experiences as well. So there's that piece. So, it does get easier as we get to deepen into our power and our soul's truth, and we get to know that. But I also have this relationship with my fear where I know that it's serving me to look at it. And I know, and I look at what is the fear here. So is the fear that clients are not going to come with me, or nobody's going to like this new level of my work? And then I ask, well, is that true? And then I ask, well, what is my soul's truth? And
Mm,
then I ask, well, how do I feel when I tap into and I imagine working with these women? How does it feel? And then
mm.
I start to shift my state. And then it's okay, what are the type of clients that I'm choosing to call forth?
Got
Because
it.
I think so often we really outsource our power and we think like clients have to choose me, and I'm
That's,
waiting and I'm waiting for a client to come, right?
yeah, that's
My
true.
practice, yeah, and my practice now is really like calling them forth energetically and really trusting that when I'm in my gifts, when I'm doing the work that brings me joy, when I'm doing the work that makes me feel free and feel like this really powerful loving energy, that I naturally will magnetize those clients in. And I think the other thing I've had to get really comfortable with is some people will get triggered.
Yeah.
and and I've had, just like you shared at the start, when you first saw me, it was like this triggering. And then you were, oh, let me look at this for myself, which I think is so beautiful.
Yeah, it was just
Um,
like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. And I've actually had so many women say that to me of, I first saw you, I was so triggered, and then I wanted to hire you because it was like this energy of, well, wait, there's something in this woman that I'm wanting to see in myself, maybe. And
Yeah.
so I know that even if it feels lonely and the fear comes up at times, I go first and I lead the way and I follow what my soul wants to do, because I know that my clients are also moving through that. And
Yeah,
so I know that if I can embody that, that they can see that in me, and it gives them permission.
to do it.
Not that they need permission, but they will hopefully like see that for themselves and go, you know what, I want that too. I'm going to say yes to myself. And
Mm,
so for me, it's a dance of, the fear comes with us, and it's not about pushing the fear away. It's actually about changing it, changing the energetic state back into soul. And
mm,
then knowing that as I lead first, I get to show the way for other women. And to me, I've always come back to the truth that that's what I'm actually here to do, is to have that as part of my legacy. So I can't deny it. And so, yes, it's uncomfortable. And I definitely go through periods, even in the last couple of weeks, I've moved through a big up level and lots of fear coming up, lots of shadow work. But also now I'm kind of coming out the other side where it feels like it's stabilizing, and it's like
yeah.
my energy is so different. And I'm seeing my clients coming in and feeling that too. So yeah,
Mm.
I think it's just that reminder that it's so safe to trust your soul and to trust your desires.
Yeah, it's so, so powerful. And that you mentioned really, really brilliant parts. One of them was asking questions. Is
Yeah.
this true? How
Yeah.
I feel this, and imagining and entering into that actually into that energy, how this feels, and is
Mm.
actually a real fear, or the fear is just is coming just to try to protect me of some
Yes.
predictions that just the mind is doing. But one of the things that I really love about your life work is that you mix both worlds, which is the spiritual, is the soul and of course a strategy, having the container, I think like more masculine and all those things, right? We have to have support, we have to have any structure. But when we have that blend, I think the evolution, like you said, it's inevitable. But when we have the tools, when we have everything, it's just it gets to be more, I'm not gonna say easy, because like you said, even if we already have clients, or we already achieved so many milestones, we now understand the process. We ask questions, we move through
Yeah.
things, right? And they're right. You mentioned as well that the people are actually feeling that change of energy, and it's literally people can feel it. And
Yeah.
some of them will say, you know what, I go with you.
Yeah.
What I have available. And not because you're like, maybe sometimes we show up in this, not in the same way, but it just maybe the same numbers that we, then same times that we show up on or online, but the energy is more potent. And it's just like you said, it's coming from a soul led. It's something that it's not coming from the ego, or I have to go next because everyone is doing that. It comes from
Yeah.
your heart. And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference. But it's like as everything is self-mastery. It's constantly working in ourselves.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
If you can just give us two or three, and I'm not saying tips because tips are not even tips. What are the some practices that you do right now, or you've been doing during those uh, transitions, I will say, when you are the aside self, of course, start shifting or
Mm.
identity. What are the two or three things that you do daily to check in with yourself, that
Mm.
making sure that you're not and this happened to me as well, that I'm not coming from the old way of being, and or
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really big on my energetic practices,
Mm,
especially in the day and in the morning and in the evening. I every single day for the last maybe 3 years I've done this, so it's very consistent.
wow.
In the morning, I will always set the intention
Mm,
that I have programs of protection and light and love around me, and that I'm not letting other people's energy interfere.
mm,
And I do that because then I can hear my soul more clearly. Then I can feel my own knowing more clearly, rather than having other people's opinions and energies coming in. And then
mm,
at the end of the day, I'll clear that as well. I'll clear other people's energies. I'll call back all of my energy as well. And I found that that practice alone is really powerful when we're navigating these seasons of change. Because one thing that, as I mentioned, is when the fear in the soul is present, the fear, asking it, is this true? And then I sometimes also ask, is this even mine? Because
oh,
it might be that I've experienced some energy from a client that day. I work with so many amazing women, and I'm always, I'm mentoring throughout the day in different capacities. So if I'm not doing my practices, sometimes I can feel, oh, that might have been my client's energy. I might not be feeling that, or maybe I'm feeling something that is from the collective and from social media that's not really my truth. Sometimes it is mine. And then I look at it, so it's knowing. I think these energetic practices are really that foundation for me, so that I can always know, is this fear or is this soul, and what is my truth right now? And then in the morning every day, I'm always, what is my truth today? How do I choose to feel? I go straight into, I'll get out of bed and I've got my baby. I've got an 8-month-old and a 4-year-old. So in the morning, you've
like
got
it's right
kids
here. Yeah.
do. It's a bit crazy in the house, but it's fun. And, we're getting the kids ready and all of that. So my morning practices are very quick right now. But then I'll come back when I sit down to work or open the computer. Then it's, how do I choose to feel? And what are the clients I call forth? And so I really imagine myself with these amazing women. I imagine the feeling, like I shared before, of how it feels to work with them. What are their values, their qualities? And I'll really let myself feel them and feel the presence of these clients. And that always holds me in those moments when the dips can come and the ebbs and the flows, because I really always trust that there are people there who desire to work with me, who I desire to work with. And that's been really big for me. And then in terms of some other tools and practices, I do a lot of journaling as well. I really love journaling. I love scripting and writing out my beliefs and my vision, and I write everything as it's done. So I'm very much in
And the
that state
present
of
tense,
this.
like,
Yeah, I write it down, and as you know, this has already happened, this is already done. And then rather than just writing it, then I'll let myself feel that as well, because I always come back to the feeling of this is done and this is created. So yeah, there's some of the practices that I do pretty much every day.
I love
Um, yeah,
the I love it. I love the addition that you that I always set the intention in the morning, like you said, I how I want to feel. But you mentioned something really brilliant that I'm just gonna adopt right away. You mentioned, is this even mine? Because sometimes
yeah,
we wake up with tunnel energy and we feel anxious, or after a
yeah,
session we feel like kind of something is not clicking, and sometimes we don't pay attention to that, and we start, like you said, those sometimes as empaths we grab energy from, or we receive energy from somebody else that is not even coming from, like it's not even has nothing to do with ourselves, with the things that we're going through. And just by being intentional, like you said, asking, is this even mine? If it is not
yeah.
even mine, and release it with love.
Yes,
And I don't know, what I'm thinking from right here is right. It's like with love and consciousness, or if that is in the highest good of the other person, but I just release it from my system, or I don't know
yeah,
how to do it, but it's that
yeah,
is
that's exactly
powerful.
it.
That is
Yeah,
really powerful. And
yeah.
like many of us, like I said, I'm going to adopt it right away because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah,
well as journaling, like you said, writing in the present moment. Sometimes, well, back then I used to catch myself writing. I will have it. Always,
mm,
it was like a separation. And when it comes
yes,
to writing on the present tense and adding the feeling, like you said, it's like you giving literally the experience to your body, and now your body, your soul, everything is just in one plane. And I think is that really, really powerful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a practice I've had for many years, and I
Mm.
enjoy it as well. I really love journaling. But yeah, that practice of asking, is this mine? That's been huge. And I have all my clients do this too. We do a lot of cleansing and protection, and calling their energy back, you know, because when you're in your sovereign power as well, you can feel and hear and know your intuition so much clearer. So
Yeah, so true. I'm just, like I said, I'm in awe for that one because it's huge, and especially
yeah,
because even if we are just texting our clients via Boxer, there's an energy change, and we don't think
yes,
like that. We don't think like that,
yes,
and start feeling like a kind of like depleted, of kind of like feeling sad. And I was like, I didn't, it wasn't even. I don't have any motive even to feel sad, but
yeah,
feeling that. And every single day it's like a taking a shower, like you said, it's every
yeah,
single day. It's just not one day that I feel like it. It's just
yeah.
the constant, that doing these practices every single day and
Yeah,
check.
yeah. I'm constantly doing this throughout the day, after every call, after every interaction, just really simply. And I know how to do it so quickly now, so it just is easy and light. But I definitely recommend for your listeners, like morning and evening, you know,
Mm,
like start your day doing that and then end your day cleansing and clearing anyone's energy, returning it with light and calling back your energy
that
with
is
light as well. Yeah.
it's so beautiful the way that you like even just put it here. It's just simple. It's not something that
Cool. Yeah.
hours like, and it's
Yeah.
something like
2 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you mentioned right now, even you're doing it through the day because it's for years like a habit. It's something that it comes just easily,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I would love to ask you, Jenna, before we close up the podcast, if you can share with us where we can find you, what are the ways that we can get to work together, or like I said, I'm just gonna put also in the description. But if you can share it here with us, it would be really amazing. And after that, I'm gonna ask you a question that I always ask to
Okay.
all the ladies here.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for having me. It's been so lovely. So everyone can find me at my website is jennablack.co, and then that's my Instagram handle as well, jennablack.co. I'm mostly on Instagram. And I think you mentioned I also have my own podcast, Woman of Wealth. So there's a whole
Okay.
library of content on there, which is amazing. And then in terms of offerings, I work with clients mostly in mastermind and private right now. So I have a Queendom Mastermind is my signature mastermind space, and then a couple of private spaces. And then I also have a portal called Icons, which is my live Facebook community with Q&A calls with me. And that's really the foundational offering in my business, where a lot of women come in and help build their business and scale to 6 figures. And yeah, it's a lot of fun in there. So I'm very simple right now with my offer suite, but they're the core ways that you can work with me.
Those are really potent. I can tell. Just are really, really potent because you are the leader right here. You are the one that is just like expanding that. And like I said, in the first minutes of our interaction, your presence, you radiate that. You radiate this beautiful balance. And that is that actually right now, when I seen the shift, especially in the last few months of 2023, I will say we don't need, but we desire to be led to
Yeah,
be with someone that is actually activating the gifts that we have it inside, right? So
exactly.
that
Yeah,
is so beautiful.
thank you.
So you're welcome. The question here, what is, and by now I already know, and the listeners, they already know, but I would love to ask you, what is your superpower, Jenna?
Oh, my superpower is definitely soul activation, really working with women around their soul's power. And knowing that that comes from my soul, right? So really that depth of going to the depths of who I am and coming back into my soul's energy and my soul's knowing. And now I work with my clients to see that in them in whatever way they're meant to lead in this life. So yeah, that's my superpower for sure.
That is so beautiful. And I think I can add another one is your intuition.
Yes,
Yes. I love it.
100%.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jenna, for joining us today. It was really a pleasure. It was really beautiful to be in your presence. Like I said before, now for the third time, your energy is so beautiful. It
Thank you.
feels so, so great to be here with you. And really,
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
it's been a joy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next